So yeah, we're live. Guys, hello and welcome to Samosa Talks. It's always a pleasure to connect with each and every one of you, and we try to do that almost every week. And today we have a very special guest with us on Samosa Talks. She's Kavita Nair. She's the Chief Digital Transformation and Brand Officer at Vodafone and Vodafone Idea. And Vodafone Idea, you must have seen, has gone through a very interesting journey all this while, and this month has been really iconic for the brand with the launch of the new rebrand. Uh, Welcome to Samosa Talks, Kavita. It's a pleasure to have you with us here. Uh, so we'll quickly start the chat, Kavita. How's the lockdown been for you, and like how do you define the new normal as an individual and even as a professional? Like I ask this question to almost every guest which we have on Samosa Talks. Reason being, I want to understand that like the term the new normal is used very often, but like the real meaning of it is something that comes from people's experiences. So it would be great if you could tell us what the new normal means to you as a person and even as a professional who's a brand custodian for a leading brand like Vodafone Idea.
No, so I think Hitesh, for all of us, right, this pandemic is unprecedented, and the fact that we are, most of us are working out of home or closeted inside a house, right, has brings new dimensions and new learnings. Of course, the big new learning is digital is the way of life, which I think everyone has figured that out. But I think it also has really helped in building relationships. Sometimes at home, you spend a lot more time. You are at home with your family, but you're still not there, right? Because you are in the middle of work. So the lines between work and home actually get blurred. So you need to start really building a structure around it, building a little bit of a discipline around it. I have a 4.5-year-old, and I felt that I was spending much more quality time with her when I was working out of an office than when I'm working out of home. So these are really differences which are weird in some manner, and they are like they are dichotomous, right? Because they they collide in some manner. But because I feel that being an optimistic person, I see a lot of things which are really positive.
Guys, can you see us? I mean, can you put it in comments if you can see me? You can say hi or hello. You can see me. Thanks, Gaurav, for informing. You can see me here, right? At this point. Hey,
Did
Kavita.
I did I lose the broadband, or
Yeah, I
I got
think
thrown out?
like both of us lost it at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, you were saying. I mean, we can continue from that. Now this is fine.
Yeah, I think so. I think that was part home, and then if I just look at from working and as leaders, the first few weeks were amusing, exciting, part frustrating because teams were getting used to this new way the digital world would not work or would work, and you wouldn't know how to use your Google Meets or Cisco WebExes and. But I think over a period of time, people have really started getting used to it. Um,
Okay.
and I think there is I think from a work perspective, I also quite enjoy sometimes seeing team members, family members, because you
Yeah.
otherwise meet them at gathering of and you have to put up with that gathering, and now suddenly you see them and you know them a little bit more, which is very exciting. And for people who live in Bombay, I think traffic woes are not part of your life, which is very
Yeah.
very good.
Interesting. And I mean, like you said, I mean, it's good to see the family on calls at times. At times, it's not planned. At times, it happens
Yes.
randomly, which is like, it's good that all of this is being normalized and it's becoming a part of
Yeah.
conversation.
But,
Yeah. So, like from your vantage point, like you've led the transformation for the brand for almost so many years, and this new rebranding exercise that has happened with We, and I think most of us have been exposed to the new brand, and if we are not, then we are living under the rock. I mean, it's there everywhere, and I wanted to understand from you, like this branding exercise would have been in pipeline for a while, and probably the pandemic might have impacted the exercise for you in terms of timelines, in terms of the way you're looking at things. So, could you take us through the whole journey of when this rebranding exercise started? What were your initial thoughts to it, and then how pandemic changed the game for you guys?
yeah, no, I will walk you through it. I think the launch of V is actually the culmination of a large integration exercise. If you remember that on August 31st, 2018, Vodafone India Limited and Idea Cellular merged to become one company. And it was one of the largest telecom mergers. And in about 2 years, we have really almost near completed what we call as the, in a record time, the largest integration. The networks have got integrated, the IT stacks have got integrated, distribution, processes, everything. And while we were doing this integration, actually our brands, we had two wonderful brands, Vodafone and Idea, most loved by customers of, and when we started this journey, we knew that we wanted a brand which carried the legacy of these brands, but we wanted to build a new dynamic edge still, and we wanted a brand which was relevant for today's India,
Right.
and which would be relevant for today and for many many years to come. We were also trying to build a brand which is future fit, which is also a brand which carries forward for this new merged entity as the future for our organization too. Keeping that in mind, you see V, and it is it's sometimes so simple, right? That Vodafone and Idea became V, means it is the first two letters, and it is V. But it is much more than an abbreviation between Vodafone and Idea. We call it we, so it is not about me, it is we, it is about the collective, it is about the collaboration. And it is about, and you see the I, which is an inverted exclamation mark, which is a bold mustard dot, which is meant to surprise and delight people. And it was a brand that was created actually for the digital age, for the screens first. So it was not created for the physical era. So for some strange reason, means it was a little ahead. We didn't know that there was no pandemic that was there when we
Right.
created it, but it was created for this whole digital first, world. And with coming of the and that is of course from the identity perspective. And then when we
Yeah.
started unlocking what India is about and what the customers are, and the customer, so, some powerful stories emerged. Indians are really optimistic. They want to get ahead in life, and they're looking for help and support. So for us, that became the core of the positioning of the brand. That how do we really help people thrive, and in that
Right.
how do we thrive, and which is why Together for Tomorrow. And when the pandemic hit us, I think there were two aspects to it. One was, is it still relevant, right?
Right.
Is this still relevant, what we were trying to create? And actually, we realized that it is even more relevant because Indians, though optimistic, were a little worried about the future, and hence are
Right.
looking for more help and support to help
Yeah.
them grow. And the second is consumers were really using telcos, and they realized the value even more during the pandemic, right? Because we were the ones who were really helping them stay connected with whatever is more important to them, friends, family, community. So I think from a reflection perspective, the positioning was right, we felt. the challenge, of course, is of course to launch a brand during a pandemic. So it
Yeah.
is amusing sometimes when but it was a challenge. But I think 6 7 months the teams have not met each other. We have done everything virtually. Everything has been created virtually. So whatever you see there has been created virtually by people who have not met each other.
Yeah.
There are certain physical aspects of signage changing, etc., but all of that safety protocols have been, so it is to that extent means hats off to the teams. They are it's amazing. It's amazing what they have really pulled off, because it is the true spirit of collaboration, true spirit of the collective, and I think the true spirit of the brand that we brought for the Indians.
And like going back a bit on the identity piece. So what was your brief, your initial brief shared with the agency World Polins, and what is that rationale behind the new identity? You've shared some of it, that it has to be future fit, it has to be something which is ahead of times. But
Yeah.
what is that first brief that you shared with World Polins? I know it would be like a multiple page thing, but like if you had to define that brief in brief, then how would you do that?
Actually, it was not a multiple page. I think briefs have to be
Okay.
brief to really get good work out. So
Yeah.
the brief was about how do we really build a new brand, but carry forward the legacy of the old, which is Vodafone and Idea. Uh, it was about how do we really create a future fit brand for the digital Indian. And it was about how do we really create something that will stretch across consumer and business, that will stretch across formats, that will stretch across classes, geographies, so that we just really have one brand identity that can cut across everything that we really do. And we were quite inspired where we said that if there is a brand that we can fulfill a consumer's unmet needs, that is what we would like to be. So that is what the brief was, fairly succinct for Wolf to really then do their magic on the identity. And to Ogilvy, when we then had the identity, we wanted to, it was a three-pronged brief. One is that Vodafone and Idea is now we wanted the second point was that we wanted and we didn't want it to be interpreted in any manner which is different. We wanted quick awareness that it is which is WEV.
Yeah.
And the third is together for tomorrow. How do we really bring that out? So it was a three bits. How do we get these three tasks done well? So,
And how long did this exercise take at your end, right? From getting the identity from the agency to even getting your initial set of launch creative, to say so, with Gilby.
no, I think some of the work started a year ago, but I must say that the massive work has happened between May and August. Actually, May and July. So it is crash. It has crashed all possible timelines, and in about 3 months, the teams really could put most of it together. So I think from May to so it was the maximum amount of work has been done during the lockdown. Uh, we
So
did have the
probably,
idea in some manner before that, but the work of how do we really bring a brand alive
yeah.
across touch points as well as whole communication strategy is a 3 to 4 month effort of concentrated effort. But the work has been in the annual for the past 12 months or so.
So probably this is India's first ever lockdown rebrand exercise that has happened. At least, like you said, most of the massive work has happened in the from the month of May onwards.
Yeah.
Uh, so, like one interesting thing that you mentioned earlier in the introduction was that both Vodafone and Idea were in its own, they are both legacy brands and they carry a lot of brand equity with them. Like whether it is the iconic campaigns that Vodafone must have done from Zuzu to Pugs to Dhananjayans to Idea having some iconic stuff in the name of What's Your Idea or Honey Bunny, or there is so much in both the brands, and there is so much equity that both these brands have earned over the years. So, like, how do you think this new rebrand will help you reduce the equity erosion across these both brands? Or you think that this brand brings both the equities together, and the erosion might not happen at scale?
Yeah. So I think it's a good question because I think this is a question that marketers typically struggle, right? Marketers as well as companies struggle as to how do you really transition, especially if you're with legacy brands, right, which are really
Right.
admired. Um, Having done a few of these before in my life,
Yeah.
my learning has been that how do we really carry stakeholders through this transition, and I think that's the most important thing. And your your stakeholders being your customers, your trade partners, your employees. Actually, first of all, we sell air, so we need our employees to really believe in the brand that is there,
Yeah.
and your shareholders, everybody, right? So how do you really carry them through this transition is the most important part of a brand migration. And in that, if you're able to then carry legacy or equity forward, um, these stakeholders really feel a lot more confident, a lot more positive that what we had is being carried forward as well as it is becoming bigger and better. I mean, if I take some of those learnings forward, means when we did the migration, our employees came to know about it before our customers did. I mean, along with media, means they were the first ones, so they feel special that they. And how do you really carry them through the transition? And then for the second one was our customers. So our customers got a personal note from. Ravinder's desk as an email or SMS, for people we
Yeah.
didn't have. So they got a personal note where they come to know before media hits, which is televisions and print hits. Our customers know from us that we have changed, and then of course the media blitzkrieg, which takes for the rest of the country. And if this is done well, I've seen that you get a lot more positive energy where these stakeholders feel that much more confident. And I think 3 weeks into the launch, we are very happy to see some of the results where the awareness is very huge, as well as our customers feel really that we are there for together for tomorrow, even though we are just 3 weeks old. But they start believing that our employees are very energized and our trade partners are very energized. So I see that. If transitions done well and thinking through this, right, because at the end of the day you have to think through these audience sets and their fears and their what comes when there is a transition like this.
And I mean, like you said, the past 3 months have been, past 3 weeks have been really interesting for you to observe. One of the things that we've seen was that all through the launch and the buzz that happened, there were brands also who created, who had, created content and creatives welcoming the new brand. So how
Yes.
is that, like, there were brands creating content around the park and in new colors and in their own style giving some punch to it. So like how was that feeling that brands welcoming the new rebrand in the world of
I loved it. I loved it. I loved the fact that brands joined the conversation because it was so lovely, right, and so special. Of course, with all of that, some of the memes also come. But the fact that a lot of brands were joining the conversation, it created a new buzz. But I really felt that it was really lovely. It means, as a marketer, I felt that other brands joining the conversation, welcoming this new brand. It's
yeah.
quite very sweet, isn't it? Very, very sweet, very gracious. So from our side, means we're very thankful. It was not something that we engineered at all, but means it's means so we are very thankful, and we are very humbled that we had
So
brands who.
which was your favorite creative from brands which had come out? I mean, this is
No,
something I'm thinking about.
I must not single that.
No. So, I mean, speaking of this new identity and it's been 3 weeks, but then how do you plan to expand the footprints of this identity? Do you have any new campaigns in pipeline? Considering there is so much happening in the space, any which ways, and if it was even not the rebrand, Vodafone idea must be doing something in this time frame. So, how do you plan to extend this? Do you plan to take up learnings from playbooks of both the brands, like say elements like like I was talking about Dhananjayans, or having, let's say, an Abhishek Bachchan do something for this, or like using the elements from the older brands to do something with the new V. So what is it that you have in pipeline? What is it the consumers or the marketing community at large can expect from V in the coming times?
Yeah. So I think two parts to the question. The first part as to what are the things that are there in the annual. So if you saw that I think the first week was dedicated to the awareness of Vodafone and Nair becoming V. And then of course we are, co-presenting sponsors to IPL, and you must have seen us unleash our network narrative, which is the GigaNet, which is the integrated network that we have, and how does that network help you thrive. And if you would have noticed, some of it takes from the learnings of the pandemic, where different kinds of people who are are thriving because of giganet, whether it is a professor who is doing an
Yeah.
online class, to a girl who is solving a scarecrow problem through a network, means so this is that is the other one that we have really unleashed. What I am particularly proud of are the very small digital experiences, because it is a digital first brand, and I have been quite amazed at the response that we have got from customers to these four things that we did. We had a happy surprises, which was you spot the logo on our app and you get some surprises, and we had a couple of million who played that. uh, then we had that AR filter of V and V and I, where you can put your photograph in between and welcome us on the social media, or your personalized tunes that you could create with your own mobile number. And now trails enter your home, which is these connectors that we have in our logo. If you remember, V and I have these really trails, which we call trails and connectors. They enter homes where you can really do a AR video or photo. So these are new age digital experiences, which we did for engagement with this new brand, and I'm quite enthused by the response that we have got from our customers. And now with IPL being on, you will soon hear about a new fan fest that will come very soon. So yes. So that was why, the answer to your first question. So many things in the annual, many things that will come up in this 3 weeks itself. Many more, you'll see many more things. The second part is, will we use our assets of Vodafone and Idea, whether it is Zuzu, Pug, or what an Idea. So these are our assets. So
Yeah.
as a company, they are our assets. It's up to us to use them. So watch this space.
All right. So yeah, I mean, and like you were talking about these digital experiences, and with pandemic, I think these digital experiences have become very important and relevant as well. And at the same time, I think there are a lot of people who really like the new V website which has come up, and the way the logo extends. So from your learnings all through this pandemic, uh, what is it that you think this new rebrand or brands in general should be doing to win over audiences on digital? What is it that they need to change in their DNA? What is it that you think is something that needs to trigger some changes on the brand side of things? And like, what should be a brand's ideal strategy at this point in time?
Yeah, so I think, and I'll give you my learnings from the pandemic, as well as looking at how consumer behavior has been, and it is not only because of the pandemic; it has been there for the past 4 5 years. Smartphones brought the digital world. I feel that there are three pillars. About one is marketing, technology, and data. These three worlds are colliding,
Yeah.
and these three worlds are colliding, and for a marketer it is important for us to really now understand these three,
Yeah.
and how do they really coexist, and how can we really unleash that power. So when you talked about our website and the app, it is not just about the look and feel or the UI of it, right? Means there is thought behind, and also even the technology stack that goes in, the data that you get out of it, the analytics that you get out of it, and then eventually how, and the usability of it, how easy it is, and how it performs, the performance metrics of these. digital assets. So typically, a marketer would not be really looking at all of those aspects. And I think these are the three which are colliding. And I feel that there is a huge opportunity for all of us to really challenge the status quo and see what this can really unleash for us and unleash for the customer. And I think the second one is from an engagement perspective. With digital scalability is very is possible, right? Whereas with engagement in the traditional physical world, the scalability was always a concern. How many more engagements will you do? Between time, effort, and money, there is only so much that you can do, and how much will you reach? With digital, you can really do that really well. So you can actually do the full funnel very well to
Yeah.
eventually leading to commerce. So I think that is the other part. And for me personally, with the pandemic and having to, and that I have two hats, which is I do digital transformation and brand. So I am always been I'm a student of this to see how consumer behavior keeps evolving and how do we really participate in that. And with the launch of this new brand, where we had to really challenge the status quo for ourselves, where we had only the two screens, large screen and the small screen, with
Yeah.
us to really get the message across. We had to really think beyond the normal to say that how can we really build engagement. And I'm very pleased with the results. It's the start of the journey. As I said, for these three things to collide and to really do, you will learn and you will test and learn and you will pilot stuff. So it's also a different way of doing things. So I think very, very exciting, very new. The new world is quite an exciting world, I
So
think.
what is that one thing that you miss from the old normal that you would have ideally done with the V rebranding, but you couldn't do because of all this? I mean, that one.
I must tell you, the one thing that I really missed is on the day of launch, I would have loved to meet the team and give them all a big hug. And I missed that. I missed that because I felt that the virtual world can't ever, take. So that is means if I look at it means the one time when I really missed
Mhm.
with all the challenges, it was that day when we launched
Yeah.
and when we had when the conversation started and we didn't know whether it would be a success or not because it's just the day of the launch. But for the team, it was something that they had done and some of the stuff that already started looking very good. I would have loved to meet them in person.
That is something we all miss at this point. Yeah. So, I mean, speaking of the current times, like it's been 2 weeks since IPL has been launched, and I think the V rebranding also happened a week prior to IPL starting. And IPL in general has sort of brought in new energy into the entire environment, and we've seen some stories of inspiration and hope coming in from players' performances. So, what do you think is the role of a live sports event like IPL in reviving the economy, in putting things back into perspective for marketers and advertisers? And how do you see IPL as an opportunity for we, the new brand? Because I know Vodafone has an interesting playbook for IPL. Even Idea has done great stuff in the past with sports. What is it that you like? What is the kind of opportunity you see in IPL for we, and even for brands who are looking to revive at this point in time?
Yeah. So I think for us, IPL, for both our brands, IPL has been something that we've been associated with. So it came at the right time. It came at the
Mhm.
time when we were going to launch a brand. Of course, we didn't know about it when we were launching. So if we had known, maybe we would have done the creative structuring a little bit differently. But that's okay. So I think for me, IPL does multiple things. I think in the middle of a pandemic, a sports event, which is it's cricket is a religion in India, and
Yeah,
IPL is something that people love. When it comes, I think it brings optimism, positivity into during this time. During this time, and the conversations change, right? Because people start going back to watching, the teams that they love, the, the game, the sport. And I think sport is a great unifier. Means I love sport for that,
yeah,
and I think and hence IPL this year is even more special. It's even more special than every year because it comes in a year where we are. I think people are really waiting for, if I can say, good news, or just really positivity. And for us, strategically, it has always worked for us, and we were very sure that we should be a part of it with the launch of Vi, and I'm sure other brands also would be, reaping similar benefits because consumers will come and watch, right? So it is the
Yeah, yeah.
opportune time for you to relay your messages, participate in that, engage with the consumers, engage with the cricket fans, and yeah. So
I'm saying in comments, bring back Zuzus, and I think Zuzus and IPL. I mean, we'd also recently shared one of the Zuzus like collective of Vodafone ads, and people really miss that and will really love that. Probably you could take some cues from there. Uh, now moving on. So and apart from IPL, there's one more thing. Like India is moving towards the festive season, and that season is something which almost all consumer brands really look forward to. So, like, what kind of festive marketing trends you foresee as someone who's been in this for years now, and like, how do you think the festive season would be different this time considering the pandemic?
I think
For
my sense is that it will be, yeah, I think it will be more digital. It will be more digital. It will be full funnel stuff that everybody would do. And I said two screens, a large screen and the small screen, where the
yeah,
play would be. I also think that it is an opportunity to create demand. So a lot more demand generation, demand creation will happen. And rightly so, because as you started the conversation, Hitesh, that this is means I'm not even calling it the new normal. I think this is the world that we may have to start to live with, right? That this is how it is, and in that, how do you really play chess in this new world? So. Festive period is always a period of optimism. Consumer energy comes back, even in a normal this day. During the pandemic, I'm really hopeful that that will happen, and we should see a lot of demand generation, demand creation happening across those screens.
yeah. Like there are some questions which I'll like to take. I mean, one of them is from Riaz. He's asking, what are the major changes you have observed in consumer behavior all this while during the lockdown? Whether it is from probably the month of from April till now, you must have seen some changes. You must have seen some patterns coming in.
Yeah, so I think find that of course with digital means everything that becomes digital is true, but I find a lot of self-sufficiency coming in people because you have to do things on your own. You don't really have the same support system for various things. So I think that self-sufficiency is coming in. A lot more independence to really you know figure out how to do things. Um, uh, uh, I feel that there are behaviors where things that were really important, some of those become a little lesser important, and other things become more important. If you know what I mean, means
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. So suddenly, and now I'm talking about things that you buy and consume, right?
yeah, yeah.
Uh, I think a lot more being able to spend a lot more time at home around your family, a lot more collective meals. Food becomes it was always an integral part of India, but the whole world of how do you really consume food and how do you make that into a social bit for the family itself, which would not be there. So these are things that I observe, and these are my observations, I must say.
Yeah.
I think people have become more conscious about fitness and how do they really, uh, you know, do that. They figured out um, work and home stuff is blurring. So how do you really start structuring? So these are some of my observations, if I must say, and these are very limited observations. But these are some of the observations that I have noticed.
Got it. And Smriti is asking, as a marketer, how has work from home changed the way you function and manage? a team?
Um,
Some
so
part of it you covered initially,
Yeah,
but
I think I think it is different where it is virtual and it is remote working, and we of course had to really even launch a brand in middle of all this. So
yeah,
it was really hyperactive, work from remote than even normal.
yeah,
But I've observed that teams have really the good part is that some of them have really become very efficient. They pick up the phones to talk to each other rather than just
yeah,
waiting for somebody to or emails, etc. So they become efficient. They start doing things in a much when I say shorter window, I think they become more efficient for that.
yeah,
There are some who have motivation, which is they're really motivated to really do more, and there are certain parts where they feel guilty that they're not coming to office, so they feel that they should do more hours. You know what I mean? Means there is a
yeah,
dichotomy there, and you have to really manage them for that, because they should not really feel guilty of not really coming to work, but and how do you do? And some part is discipline, and so one of the things that I told my team is that we will not do any meetings between one and two, because you are at home, so you are with family, so have lunch together.
right,
Why have a meeting in between? And try not to have meetings after 7. Of course, that went all over when we were in the middle of launch, but at least we were trying to do some of that. Have virtual coffee sessions where you don't discuss any work, but just chat. Are things that we had to really pull out of our hat to figure out how do we really work through this virtual method. But I think for the team in Vodafone Idea, I think they were working through this project, and they didn't know all parts of it. But when it all came together, the the, the what they feel, which is the satisfaction of what they were working towards. I feel that I see that it's really very hard.
right. And there's one question on V. Apurva is asking,
Vodafone Idea, I think.
how was the initial response to V, and like how do you measure that response at your end? Like what were the benchmarks that you might have set?
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah, so I think we had, of course, our internal, research stuff that we had done for all stakeholders, but I may not be able to share the figures, but I think it has broken all those benchmarks, both for all our trade customers, employees, as well as for trade, and we're very happy with this, the response that we've got.
yeah. And there's someone asking, like you clearly mentioned, sports is a unifier. Do you think brands should also look at lesser known sports to to work on, invest on? I
Of
think
course,
Vodafone has done kabaddi and
kabaddi, badminton, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, why not? If it fits your brand strategy, you must. And if that really helps in other sports to flourish in our country, why not?
So what is that one sport that you really liked working on in your journey all this while? I mean, with
So I
Vodafone?
must tell you the biz. I used to love sport, but
Yeah.
cricket and F1 are two things to sport with, and tennis are the three sports that I used to follow. And now I don't
Yeah.
follow cricket and F1 as much, because once you start
Mhm.
sponsoring these things, you start you know.
Yeah.
So tennis, thankfully, I've not done. So tennis, I still follow very well.
And and from your this is my last question, and probably then we could see if there are any other questions from comments. Uh, what are your learnings as a marketer, and as a marketer in this post or pre in this COVID world, to say, so we're not into the post one yet, and how do you map those learnings to whatever you've seen in your career in the pre-COVID world? I mean, can you map them in a way that whatever you've learned in the past 6 months is entirely different from whatever you've seen in the last 20 years or so?
Yes, I think for me, I mean, I used to always say that impossible is a word that doesn't exist in my dictionary. But if
Yeah,
somebody told me about 8 months ago, 9 months ago, that I had to launch a brand during lockdown, even I would have said impossible. So for me, the big learning is nothing is impossible, and it is reinforcement for myself. because if we could really and in our case it is a a brand launch. In anybody else's case it may be something else which is really important and strategic and really and and I feel that nothing is really impossible if you really have true spirits of collaboration, true spirits of the collective to really come together for something. I think the pandemic really helped us, helped me at least, reinforce that belief.
So there's one question from Karthik. He's asking why there is why from what I understand the question is that why is we not investing more on regional media or regional newspaper. I believe he's from one of those regional media. So he's asking why don't you allocate budget for regional newspapers? We are big
Yes,
fans.
I think I'm not very sure whether that's true because uh, both for all digital as well as TV regional channels etc. are a part of it. And when we did
Yeah.
the only print ad that we did, I think it was in 9 languages or 10 languages. I forget now.
Okay.
So there was only one print ad that we did as an announcement, and it was across in 17, 18 publications and across about 9, 10 languages.
And Ashish is asking, how would you plan to attach content, video, and audio offering to build V brand further?
Yes, I think if you would have already seen that we have a Z5 annual subscription with our 405 prepaid pack. So, um, uh, in my view, which is what I went back to B's positioning, where B's positioning is about Indians having wanting to get ahead, wanting to having needs which are entertainment, health, education, etc. All of it, and to really help them get ahead. Entertainment is a core part of it. So currently we have the Z5 subscription itself, which is annual subscription, which is free when you buy a prepaid pack.
And one last thing from my end, I mean, what is it that we can expect from V in the next 1 month or during IPL? Can you give us some cheat codes, I should say, or some spoilers for our audiences, for marketers?
Yes, I think yes. There is something which is coming up for the fans. So you'll see a digital activation coming up very soon, a fan fest, which
Okay.
I
Okay,
hope
for
you'll
the
all
fan
be.
fest, the theme.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
There's one more question in comments. Will we continue as a wireless provider or will you plan on entering the fiber to home premises? I don't think it's relevant to
No,
you at this
it's not relevant.
point. So I think that's about it. Thank you, Kavita. Thanks a lot for sparing our
Thank you
time for
very
this.
much. Thank you,
It
Tej, and
was
thank you
great
very much for
to
inviting me.
it was great to learn about the new brand V, and we really look forward to more from the brand. We really look forward to the new identity, the new elements. Uh, thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Atan. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for hearing me.